My Go-To Kitchen, and Lux 45, the Lifestyle Boutique. I'm Lee Navlin, and once again, I'm joined by the boss herself, Ileana Castillo.
Hi guys, I'm live from Dominican Republic.
Ileana is coming to us via Zoom from the Dominican Republic, so we may have some technical issues along the way, but please bear with us. But again, that is Ileana Castillo, the boss. Now, I know Michael Goldberg's out there shouting, she's not the boss, she's not the boss, Bruce is the boss. Well, Michael, not anymore. Ileana now holds that title. Right, Ileana?
Oh my God, Rain. How you guys doing?
We're doing fine. I'm doing fine. The weather's nice here. I understand you're telling me it's very hot in the Dominican Republic.
God, I feel like my clothes is melting on my body.
That
It's
sounds
really
kind of
hot here.
sexy, actually. I think I kind of like that.
No, no, about that. It's super sexy. I think it's super sexy. See what you made me say? No, it's too hot. It's really hot, man. It's so hot.
Yeah, Ileana, let me ask you something now.
Yeah.
You have been sending me emails recently, and I noticed that you when you start an email, you always say, "Hey, sweetie." That's what you've been calling me, sweetie, lately. Now my nickname is actually Dollface, so I just wanted you to know if you could,
Yeah.
if you could go with that, that would be appreciated. Ileana,
Okay.
we have, as you know, last week before you left, we had the letter that came from Medium. Okay, and that was a letter that was signed by over 130 parents of black children, and
Oh,
we don't.
you're talking about the infamous letter.
The
Yeah.
infamous letter, which again, we still don't know who authored the letter. We know who signed the letter.
But I've been asking a lot of people about that because people want to know who wrote the letter so it can have some legitimacy. Because right now we don't know like who wrote it. Like not even nobody. Just people just read it and sign it. How can you sign something when you don't know who is the author of it? Like seriously, can
Yeah,
you even take the letter seriously when you don't know who wrote it?
what I took seriously was some of the names, and I don't want to start listing all the names, but there was like former Mayor Frank McGahey. There were members of the Board of Ed, or former members of the Board of Ed, I should say, that signed it. So there were some heavy hitters. There were other people that are very active in the community. Names that you might
A lot
know,
of the social groups,
social
social justice
groups.
groups were there,
Yeah, so
signed a
it
lot.
really was. I don't want to say it was a who's who of signers, but I'm not sure if they knew what they were signing or if they knew exactly what they were signing. I can't say for certain, but um, what we do know is that letter really went after the BPW, the Black Parents Workshop, and its head, the head of the BPW right now. That's James Davis, and they really came after him hard. And we talked about that last week. We were hoping to have James on the show this week to discuss it. Unfortunately, he was not available, but he did respond to some questions that you asked him.
Was willing, well, he was willing to come, but he didn't want to come alone. He wanted to confront one of the people that signed to talk and converse with them. Like, what do to have a legitimate conversation, and
Right.
which is fair. And he's right. He really put himself out there and he wanted to talk to one of them. It could have been Frank McGee. It could have been Thar, one of the Board of Ed,
Yes. Yeah, he
ex
was open. He
former.
said, yeah, he said, look, find me someone that wants to talk about this. I'll talk. And we did reach out to some. Silence. And I understand. You kick a guy when he's down, maybe, and
They
they
didn't respond to us. What do you think they didn't respond to you?
no. So Davis did respond with some questions that you asked him in writing, and he said we could
Saying the ones, I'm talking about the people that signed the letter from the Black parents.
right.
Why did you think the people that we tried to bring him into the podcast didn't respond to us? Do you think it's because they are prohibited to join the podcast, or they just don't want to confront
Yeah, I think
PBW, or what do you feel? What are your feelings?
I just think it serves no purpose for them to to debate James. I don't see what they felt they would gain out of it. They signed a letter. And they move on with their lives, and the letter again was written in a manner that I'm not sure James Davis can move on with his life. I'm not sure what he plans to do about it. He didn't share with us his what's going to happen, but he did again. Let me read the first question. I think you we sent him
Yeah.
4
5
questions.
questions. We
5
sent him
questions.
5 questions,
R
and he
eh,
was willing to respond. Yeah.
right, and I just received these, so, as I'm reading them, I'm kinda learning, what he had to say as well. So podcast question number 1 to James Davis. How do you feel about the accusations made against the Black Parents Workshop, BPW, in the letter signed by the Soma parents of black children? Okay, and this is what he said verbatim. I might summarize a little bit because he has a few paragraphs here, and I'm not summarizing it, but I'm going to perhaps not read it all. But in essence, James writes, I basically had two feelings about this letter. The first was confusion. I was so confused because the facts were largely inaccurate and omitted material facts. I also wondered who was the audience for this letter. By the time I finished reading the letter and reviewing the names of the authors, I felt validated. The reason I felt validated was due to the fact that the names on the letter represent the type of people who have never been within the scope of BPW's efforts. The people on that list are very important, influential black parents in the community. That if their children have any problem or issues with the school district, those parents can pick up the phone and call the superintendent or the mayor, for example, and their issue will most likely be resolved. On the other hand, if their issue can't be resolved, those parents have the means to send their children to private school or obtain out-of-district placement without much trouble. So what James is basically saying here is like, I represent the kids that don't have parents that, have the means to pick up the phone and say, hey, you know who I am? That's the kids he's been representing, or the child in this case he's representing, the child that had the accusations against Sanchez, who, by the way, the criminal charges, as I think everyone listening to this podcast knows, have been dropped. He's been taking a victory lap. Congratulations, Frank. I didn't think he belonged in prison either, but that's strong what James is saying here, Ileana.
I know. Finish the other little paragraph, the one below.
Okay, BPW has always represented black students and families at the other end of the socioeconomic and political power spectrum. These folks don't have the mayor's numbers in their phones. They are not politically connected. Ivy League professors, Jack and Jill members of HSA members. We have attempted to level the playing field for the folks by ensuring they are not forgotten. So he says, the short answer to your
Just
question is
said.
that I didn't feel anything because the letter was just a personal attack on BPW and James Davis. He goes on a little bit more. However, none of the letter signers have ever expressed any of those concerns to my face since I joined BPW, so I don't take letters on Facebook or Facebook posts that seriously. In a town that loves to tell others to have tough conversations, none of those people have had conversations with James Davis or any of the concerns in that letter. The letter was written to discredit James Davis and BPW in the eyes of the white community, but neither James nor BPW have ever sought validation from any group except the students I am trying to help. That's what he says.
Saying earlier that all these people have the means to do what they can for their child, but the ones that Black Parents Workshop represent, they don't have those connections. They don't even know what to do. And
Right.
that's where Black Parents Workshop jumps in. I get his point. I get it.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it was like you were just saying
yeah.
exactly what you said.
Yeah, it was like it was like and again, I don't want to say who's who of Maplewood, but yeah, there was there were heavy hitters on this list, people who are doing quite well and enjoy good lives, and Maplewood and South Orange is a very expensive place to live for most people, and these people have the means. And he's saying the people he may be representing don't, and they've been kicked to the curb, maybe, or this young girl, a teenage girl, has been kicked to the curb, all for perhaps political gain. But shall I read the second question, Ileana?
You can do the second one if you
Okay.
want to.
Now
That's
again,
fine. I'll do the third.
okay, Ileana is coming to us via Zoom in the Dominican Republic, so that's why just if there's a little bit of a breakup or a delay, But again, we wanted to get this all out there. Okay, question number 2: the signers of the letter accused BPW of engaging in destructive tactics that undermine efforts to obtain equity and success for Black students. What is your perspective on this accusation? Can you list some accomplishments that your group has pushed to negate these accusations? Do you want me to read the answer?
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
The
I'll let
accusation
you
is
do this.
Okay, yeah, because we were going to split this back and forth, but with your delay, maybe.
I'll do the smaller ones, but you can
Okay,
do the bigger
okay,
ones. Go ahead.
okay. I got a big mouth and I talk fast, so.
Ah,
Okay, so James's answer to that last question. The accusation is laughable and ludicrous on its face. Historically, Black people have attempted to level the equity playing field through voting, running for office, community participation, protest legislation, and court systems when all other means of change have failed. BPW has done all of those things. For example, I ran for school board in 2016. I attended many focus groups and met many folks in the community who all agree on one thing. The inequities for black students in our school district has been going on for decades. When I would ask the question, why haven't you tried something different to move the needle on inequity? No one had an answer, and no one seemed to think any urgency was needed to make any change. BPW was the only organization that was willing to risk ridicule and backlash for black students, and we are using the court system and seeking policy change just like Martin Luther King and others from civil rights movements. Our method and manner is heavily influenced by our ancestors, such as Martin Luther King, as evidenced by our participation and influence of the access and equity policy in 2015. Thurgood Marshall, as evidenced by one and only lawsuit against Thurgood Marshall, as evidenced by our one and only lawsuit against the school district that resulted in the Fergus recommendations ratified by the board in October of 2023, and Malcolm X, as evidenced by the manner in which we call out injustice publicly and demand that those be responsible be held accountable. So the short answer, he says, is that BBW has a list of some of the accomplishments on a timeline on the website, blackparentsworkshop.org. We don't include every instance of helping someone because that's not what it's about, but we do mention the most notable issues we have been involved in when we deem it necessary or important to do so. All right. Look, I'm not the guy that says the BPW is the greatest thing since everything, but you know what? He's answering these questions and he's giving us really rock solid, evidence of perhaps
To
that
be
letter
fair, I
not.
think no, I was going to say, to be fair, I think everybody was expecting Black Parents Workshop to respond to some of these accusations, because, there's always two sides of every story.
Right, right, yep.
So,
All right, Ileana. So so Davis. Okay, the third question that you asked him. How do you address the specific criticisms mentioned in the letter, such as BPW's oppositions to the suspension moratorium, the renaming of Jefferson School, and the presence of armed police in schools? Okay, so this is what Mr. James Davis has to say about that. Let's take these issues one at a time, and let me just say that BPW deals in transparency. Okay, so opposition to suspension moratorium. Here is an excerpt from the board's suspension moratorium resolution. Whereas, to the extent that the code and conduct and this resolution are in conflict, the resolution will supersede the code of conduct. And he highlights this. Be it resolved that the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education directs the superintendent to immediately institute a 1-year moratorium on all suspension schools removed, except in isolated and extreme cases where there is credible and significant threat to the well-being of students or staff, subject to the superintendent's approval. And be it further resolved that the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education directs the superintendent to convene a task force comprised of identified students, staff, and educators to evaluate and assess the current state of PK-12 restorative practices and social emotional supports through regular meetings, as well as through the administering of brief climate and culture survey to students in grades 6 through 12 in the fall, early winter, and again in the spring. The task force will use the findings to suggest necessary adjustments and additions to strengthen our current approach to restorative practices. The superintendent will complete a report with the results of that assessment, as well as a recommendation to the board no later than March 31st, 2022, presented at the following general board meeting. All right, so he's really, boy, he's got a lot. He's got a lot. He's got a BP. So he's giving us all this to explain the definition of a moratorium means a suspension of activity. There will never be a point where our school district could legally not suspend a student. There are certain activities, such as bringing a firearm to school, that require suspension at the very least and expulsion in some cases. BBW assisted in the revision of the school district code of conduct in 2017 with other community members, and we fought hard to make suspensions more transparent, and we fought hard to ensure that it took more than one person to decide to suspend a student, especially in the case of special education students. For example, our suggested language was that a suspension could not occur unless voted on by at least 3 people, and in the case of the special needs student, the case manager had to be involved in the process. Also, the principal of SOMS actually spoke at a board meeting about the lack of transparency regarding the task force and the implementation of the suspension moratorium. There is also an article in the Village Green where the student representatives of the board were also highly critical of the process and implementation of the suspension moratorium and how the task force was conducted. BPW was not the only critical voice around this process. Okay, and then he goes on.
I gotta say something.
Yeah,
He is really being more detailed than that other letter. The letter was just like a small paragraph, like just making an accusation. But at least I gotta give it to James Davis. He's giving a little bit of more examples, more details, more what they've done and everything. Like I could completely see the difference.
right. Now I know some people are listening to this and saying, you're reading everything he has to say," but yeah, that's basically what it is. We wanted him down here, but he said, "Let me tell you in detail via the pen." And so I think based on that letter, this is his outlet to respond. I'm just going to read verbatim what he's telling us. So I apologize to listeners that might say, "Well, gee, I'm just listening to you read, Lee." But if you want to know the deal, right? You right. Get
Yeah, he's debunking what he's been being accused, which by the way, I think is more it was an opinion that they stated as fact.
Yeah, I mean, they took him down a peg, and he's rising to the challenge, and he's asked us to do the heavy lifting, I
Um,
guess. But
you want me to jump into the renaming of the Delia Boulding Elementary School?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Why don't we do that?
That
And James
okay,
has so much
so
more to say. And James, thank you very much for all this. You are a serious guy. You certainly you more than responded to our request for some when we asked you questions. So thank you. So why don't you, Eliana, renaming of the Delia Boyden Elementary School? Why don't you take it away?
yeah, PBW was never against the naming of Bolden School. What we were against was Dr. Taylor and others' attempt to portray the school's renaming as a great achievement in the pursuit of equity while simultaneously ignoring the requirements of the BBW settlement. The Black Parent Workshop, the school district settlement was only supposed to last 3 years. The settlement was signed in July 2020. Based on the lack of action and commitment at the hands of Dr. Taylor and Star Joshua, the school district was not able to demonstrate that it had met its obligations under the settlement. In April 2023, the school district was faced with a choice. One, petition the federal judge for hearing to prove it had met its obligation and declare the settlement closed, or two, extend the settlement for another 3 years and try again. Obviously, the choice was number two. There was definitely criticism regarding the timing of the renaming of the Bolden School in light of a bigger equity infrastructure issues of the Black Parent Workshop, some South Orange Maple School District settlement that the school district was avoiding. But we never were against the naming of the school. Ultimately, the renaming of a school by itself will not move the needle on the changes our district needs to undertake to fulfill its obligation under the PBW, school district settlement.
Yeah.
So they were never against it. So that's his
No.
point of view.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, again, James is saying what you put in your letter. That's not the bottom line, and he does it in such detail. One has to wonder. All right, now he's got. You asked him about armed police in schools, and
This one is short, guys.
yeah,
Thank God.
this is not.
This one is short. He says the claim that PBW is advocating for having armed police in schools is flat out ridiculous. I challenge any of the signers of that letter to provide a post, email, or evidence that I have supported that position. When I first joined PBW in 2017, the first issue I was involved in was the kids that were beat up by the cops after the July 4th celebration. I, along with one of the signers of the letter, marched in front of the police building and demanded that the Maplewood Police Department release the video of what occurred that night. The community at large believed that nothing happened until about a year later when the video was released. It was also PBW that first called for the removal of the police chief. It was TJ Whittaker Did I say that?
Yeah,
White
TJ
taker, white
Whitaker,
taker,
yes,
and yeah, yeah,
school
and
teacher TJ Whitaker.
PBW that led the change before it became popular. To try now and get the community to believe that PBW is advocating for armed police in the school is one of the most ridiculous statements in that letter. You can't reason with insanity. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
I mean,
he challenged them.
yeah,
He just
yeah.
challenged them.
I mean, I wasn't expecting this when we asked him these questions. And by the way, the next question, which I'll read, the letter suggests that BPW's. Oh, this is the question. The letter suggests that BPW's actions have damaged the community and traumatized students, especially regarding the case involving Columbia High School principal Frank Sanchez. What is your response to these concerns, and how do you justify BPW's involvement in this situation? Um, I'll read this if you don't mind, Ileana. The students who are actually traumatized are those that have been suspended without due process at CHS and other schools in our districts. The students who have been traumatized are the students who have been exiled to home instruction for over a year with no one in the school district providing them with their state and federal rights and privileges. We are fighting for those students. That is how I justify BPW's involvement in any issue. BPW has been around for 10 years. Most people who are concerned about BPW at this time have no idea what we have done except a few notable instances. We don't seek rewards, nor do we seek a pat on the back. We believe in helping those that may not be able to help themselves when faced with systematic roadblocks. The percentage of black students in our school district has decreased every year. In 2010, it was approximately 53%. 53%. Now the percentage is about 33%. Some people would have you believe that the reason for the decrease is that black people can't afford to live in our community. However, what they won't talk about is the number of black families that live in Soma who have chosen to move their children out of the school district because of how they and other black children have been treated. Even some of the signers on the letter have moved their children out of the school district despite their political connections, presumably out of frustration. But not all black families in our community have that option. Why should our families be subjected to choosing to live in a community, pay exorbitant taxes, and yet still feel the need to send our kids to private schools because they cannot get the equitable education in our public schools? Black flight is a reality in Soma, and no one is talking about that except BPW because it's a very uncomfortable conversation. That is the damage and trauma that I see on a daily basis. You,
He
he's
has a point there. He does have a point that a lot of people that signed the other letter, some of their kids are in out of school districts. He's not wrong there.
no, and he said it's 53% to 33%. So in 2010, 53% the black students in our district. In 2000, it was approximately 53%. Now it's 33%. 20% of these kids are gone, and he's saying it's not because they can afford to
Yeah,
live in the area anymore. In some cases, but they're leaving because they can't get the education they deserve. I think that's what he's saying. Yeah, this is um, James he's doing his homework here, and again, there's a letter written, as you
right.
said, a few paragraphs, and then there's this. I mean, for those of you that
When,
through,
you know,
yeah, I mean, again, Frank Sanchez, yeah, it was a very happy weekend. People were cheering him on at the graduations, and as I said, he took a victory lap, and meanwhile, James Davis, and that's fine for Frank, and God bless, and I hope he has a wonderful career the rest of the way. But
I heard that Frank wants his job back.
yeah, and he
I heard that he's going to be at the on the 27th. I think there's a board of ed meeting, and we should know if they will give him his job back or not.
yeah,
Word on the street, they're saying that it looks like the board of ed might give him his job back. It seems like that's what they're churning.
well, the way he's
I wouldn't be
celebrating,
surprised.
yeah, the way he's celebrating, it would seem like he's certainly not mad at the district. He's happy to be
No,
here.
no, he went to the graduation of
Yeah,
Columbia High School. He went to the Maplewood Middle School graduation.
yeah.
So it seems clearly that he really does want to stay. Like he's not mad.
Yeah,
Uh-uh.
yeah, no, no, no. I agree, Liana. You know what? There were a few more questions they asked, but I think we've really gotten the jux of it out. I mean, that was the big one with Sanchez and James Davis. He stepped up to the plate when you asked him to because he said he can't make it. He said, "Can you answer some questions?" And boy, did he answer questions. So I think we're very lucky here on this. And I wish everybody. I wish this.
Because I forgot to tell you, Jason made that very clear. Sometimes James worked for himself
Right.
and he's not representing Black Parents Workshop because
Hmm.
just because you see James taking a
Right.
test, it's not necessarily it's Black Parents Workshop. You know, he does his own thing too, you know?
He's representing this student as her attorney. R-
Not Black Parents Workshop,
Right. This is
no.
right. This is just he's just whatever it is, and as he said to us on the air, he says, "Hey, guys, if you think I'm making a lot of money on this, I'm not making a lot of money on this. It doesn't sound like he's made any money yet."
Making money.
Yeah.
They can Oprah all those documents on the school district and see how much he's getting money because I've heard these ridiculous things like, oh, every time Black Parent Workshop sues, James get a big fat check. Uh,
Yeah.
According to him, he says no. And he says, for the documents, they'll send it to you and you'll see what kind of check he received, which is usually zero. It's all to the family. So
Yeah.
people have to be careful with these accusations, you know?
And I've been asking on every time someone had something positive to say about the letter, which is fine. But I didn't like how some people were coming after our podcast last week and saying some woman said to you, said, Ileana, you guys didn't tell the you didn't tell the truth. You misunderstood. You didn't tell the truth. You didn't weren't aware. Something to that degree. And I said, wait a second. I go bullshit. First off, lady. And then I said, secondly, who wrote the letter? Who's the author of the letter? She goes, what does that matter? I go, it matters because when I look up a source, I look up information. I want to find out the source. If I say, hey, A plus B equals C or whatever, I want to know the source to prove that I'm right. And people are saying, look at this letter. It's an outstanding letter. Who wrote it? We don't know. Then how could you believe it? Well, all these people signed it. I get it, but how do you know they signed that letter based on everything that letter was meant to be, which at the end of the day was a triple I, an link to study up on something that I'm not sure what the hell that letter was about. But it went after Davis's reputation. It was wrong.
Suspicious. A lot of people have their suspicions who
Yeah.
the letter's coming from. A lot of, I have my suspicions too, but I'm not going to say it. But it was very clear by the names that were signed. You can definitely guess who were behind this, you know?
Yeah.
And everybody that actually, to be honest with you, everybody that signed, or most of them, are against Black Panther Worship. Almost all of them,
Yeah,
the
I mean,
majority.
yeah, he seemed to indicate that as much, and I guess there's a lot of politics involved there. That and that's fine. Look, uh, I think there's a misunderstanding amongst the community, and probably even amongst the white community, because the white community is very quick to just be like, "Oh, 130 black parents sign this," parents of black children sign this, and then so we agree with it, and that's fine. But the Black Parents Workshop certainly doesn't represent the African Americans in Maplewood, and neither does this letter. This letter does not represent all the African Americans in Maplewood, and people should be aware of that. So we're all individuals.
I thought that it was the township committee that represented us.
Yeah, the township committee is supposed to represent everybody, but anyway, the whole thing is crazy. This is a crazy town. Soma's just a crazy town, and I don't know. And meanwhile,
Surprised?
what?
Hey, are you surprised the township committee haven't said anything about that letter, or they just don't
Oh,
want to get involved?
they won't say anything about it ever. And they none of them signed it, except for I think Jermaine Cripe signed it. But I'm not sure about South Orange. I don't think anyone in South Orange signed it. So. I'm not sure if that's just a race issue. I don't know, but they don't have black children, for instance. Victor Luca doesn't have black children. He won't sign it, for instance. I don't. I'm just saying, but anyway, this is crazy. This is disgusting. This is wrong. This whole thing's wrong. And by the way, what about the student? So we all just to assume, and all the student's full shit. She lied. There was no confrontation, and the principal never touched her, and she should know better.
The only
Um,
part that I don't like a lot about the letter, they're like, "Oh, we are what was the word they used? We're concerned about the student."
yeah, in the
Oh,
first
did you call the
paragraph.
parents? Yeah, did you call the parents? Did you want to visit her? Did you heard her side of the story?
Yeah.
Like,
No.
and I can tell you right now, probably no, 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 no.
No, I mean, I don't know. Maybe if someone reached, I doubt it. I certainly doubt it. I mean, I imagine, so she's got Davis in
Someone,
a corner. I don't know. I mean, is he going to win?
you know what's sad about this? Someone brought it up. I got to give it to the people that were supporting Sanchez. They were very, very well organized.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Tamara, the Jewish teacher, wasn't that organized. She barely had any support. I feel bad for that teacher.
You
I
know,
really do.
yeah, Davis was involved in that case as well, in BPW, but they were involved with the hijab gate, where the Jewish teacher, was suspended immediately, and I guess according to Rocio Lopez, who told us she's not what shows what's going on. She assumes it's still in some type of litigation. The school board, the president of the teachers union, that was all she knew about it. So. Yeah, no. But Davis said she was suspended immediately. The teacher who held a kid upside down in a Montrose school was suspended immediately, and he said again, he felt Sanchez should have been suspended immediately. An investigation, none of this happens. Instead, the student suspended. I don't know, and here we are, and it just tore the community apart, and
This is the question that I think a lot of people is asking, and question was posted by Jason Sippy. He said, "Why did it take a year to process an affirmative action complaint? Why did it take a year?" Which I think that was Black Pants Workshop question as well. Why did it take a year?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I did. It was Davis, right? That was what Davis said. So he goes, and that's basically why we're at. So, look, congratulations again to Frank Sanchez. At least anybody thinks I don't like Frank Sanchez, or you don't like Frank Sanchez. I don't know Frank Sanchez. I know a lot of people adore him. I've some school teacher friends that dig him, high school teachers that thought he was excellent, and I wish him well. I wish his student well. James Davis.
I have no opinion.
To me, he's representing a student he feels was wronged and feels doesn't have the material ability to pay for an attorney to fight for her rights. So that's where we are, Ileana Castillo in the Dominican Republic.
So hot here, like it's really, really hot, and I've been not feeling good. Like I came here so I could take care of my mother, but it's been reversed. My mom is taking care of me. Like this travel has not done me any good.
Well, I'll tell you, it's been very comfortable here in the 70s, and I feel great. So just so you know, I feel better than ever. So.
I told you, it's like my clothes melt when I put it on. I can't even wear makeup. It just goes just like that. Like it's really that hot right now.
Yeah, well, baby, you don't need makeup because you look great just the way you are. So anyway.
I need my little thing. Yeah. Hey, did you guys heard my mom in the background?
Yeah, we did hear your mom. Yeah, your mom jumped in a little bit, but anyway, we'll edit that bad boy out.
Well, you see, you guys heard my mommy.
Yeah, I mean, we could keep it in, but I think she was cursing you out in Spanish. I heard, so.
Let it in.
Right, yeah. So fungu, is that fuck you in Spanish? Fungu, or is that not?
No, that's Italian.
That's Italian.
No.
Oh, yeah.
No, because I'm in her bedroom, and because the internet here is pretty high. And she wanted like, "Are you done? I want to watch TV." And I'm like, "No, I'm not done."
Yeah. All right. So Ileana will be back here in the States on July 9th, I think you said, and we're going to doing podcasts in person on July 10th, I believe, or July 11th, because we have so much fun being around each other. The Zoom thing is a drag, but again, we wanted to get this Davis stuff out to you as quickly as possible. Because we felt it was breaking news. So, Ileana, again, our sponsors are Coda Kitchen and the Lifestyle Boutique. That is Lux 45 Lifestyle Boutique. 15% off if you mention this podcast. Tell Jill that I want my 15% off on merchandise because I listened to the Soma Talks podcast. And Senor Sangria, that's right. Yes, those are our three sponsors. Ileana, I guess why don't we wrap it up and we'll do it again soon. All right, good night, folks. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Soma Talks podcast. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. The Soma Talks podcast name in all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service.